Hey everybody, it's Scott Amato, and I'm going to do a video on shaders on the Mac. Alright, on my particular Mac, I can't speak for anyone else's Mac. My Mac's a little bit different. It is a Mac Pro with an added NVIDIA GeForce 960. Alright, so that was a specially flashed card for me, but I am using the NVIDIA Mac drivers, which aren't really updated that much. They're not very well optimized, and so I think that anybody that pretty much has an NVIDIA system, and maybe even some of the Intel ones with the shaders I've selected, should get decent performance and be able to use these shaders. All right, these are low-end shaders for the most part, and in some cases I found that I actually get a frame increase. All right, now I'm recording video, so generally when I'm recording video, my frame rate is basically cut in half. All right, I can kind of guarantee that my frame rate will be cut into half. Now, one of the limitations on Mac is that it's using an older version of OpenGL. It's using 2.1. All right, OpenGL 2.1. So a lot of the newer shaders and stuff are optimized for later versions of OpenGL. All right, that's a limitation on the Mac, and usually it's going to show itself as not having good shadows and stuff like that. Some of the shadow code will be weird, how it's compositing stuff. All right, now this is going to be a detailed video, a long video, a detailed video. So let me just up front give you an answer if you want an answer. All right, and so the basic answer is avoid SEUS. Forget SEUS. You're not going to be able to use it for the most part on a Mac. You're not going to be able to use it. There are ways that you can tweak it, and I do have two versions that I can run here. 10.1 that's been edited. There's some videos on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description. It does work. All right, I can run that SEUS version after I've edited. All right, and then SEUS version 8 standard, I can run that. I'm in 1.12.2. You'll see that there'll be a OpenGL error even if you've edited it, but once you get rid of that, then it'll work okay. So this is SEUS version 10, and I don't get great frame rates. I'm still getting over 30 when I'm recording video, so you know, 80 frames a second or something like that. It's decent. All right, so I can run that, but basically the answer is avoid SEUS for the most part. You're not going to be able to use it. Use Sildurs. If you just want an out-of-the-box shader that you can run most versions of it, then these Sildurs vibrant shaders work well on Mac. All right, and you can generally tell from the beginning how well a shader is going to perform by how fast it loads. If it takes a long time to load, then it's not going to be that great. All right, so this I'm getting, again, 45, 46 recording video, so that's not bad. Is it playable in a Let's Play? Probably not. You know, probably not, especially because this is pure vanilla. And some tips on testing in vanilla: you know, try to go to a plains where there's a lot of grass, but make sure you go to a forest. If you've got waving leaves, test that. Of course, you want to test your water and all that kind of stuff. But choose your location where you're testing wisely, and start off by testing just basic. All right, just vanilla, no extra packs or anything like that. Again, I'm using 1.12.2, latest and probably last version of Forge for that. And then I'm using the most recent version of Optifine, F5. All right, but some of the shaders work better on older versions. However, some shaders work better. So your mileage may vary. Some of the shaders I've seen work better on older versions of Optifine, but the frame increases that I'm getting on certain shaders is this new Optifine versions. All right, so I'm just going to quickly go over those. There's two of those that substantially increase my frame rates just from the base Minecraft Vanilla. All right, and that's builded modder shaders. This version 2.4.1, basically. I think that's the latest version of it. Now, because this is 1.12.2, the water and stuff changed substantially in 1.13.1, so a lot of these older shaders aren't going to work that well. But you can see I'm getting 170, all around there, 80. So I'm getting near 200 frames when I'm not recording video. All right, and that's better than vanilla. Better than vanilla. And then the other one that does that for me is this Chocapic13 No Shadows version 1. Now, some of the Chocapic ones and mini shaders are based on that, is kind of hit and miss. These are the other versions that work for me. V4-Ultra works, V4-High. And another tip on shaders is start at the medium versions. That's interesting. I wasn't getting this when I wasn't recording video. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So that's OBS thing that's maybe messing with it. Interesting. So lens flares I could probably turn off. But see, 85, you know, around there. Let's actually check that real quick and see if I have options for that. Some of this I'll go into the code probably later and figure out why, if I can. I mean, I'm no expert on it. But that's interesting. That's an OBS thing. All right, it was not doing that prior. This, if I'm not recording video, that's a lens flare that's doing that, I can tell. So it's some kind of compositing thing with that. So again, things will vary a little bit when you're recording video. All right, that's just life. All right, so let's look at like one of the ultra ones, for instance, the Chocapic13 V4-Ultra, and see what it does. All right, see if it has the lens flare issues or not. No. See, that one doesn't. So that version 1 is really old. But another general guideline is I found that on my particular system here, shaders from 2014 to 2017 generally work the best. All right, if I can get shaders from that range, so 1.7.10 shaders, 1.8, there wasn't any substantial changes in world generation and stuff that changed that, but 1.13 they completely changed the water. But I found shaders work best from that time range. Now this is an ultra shader. This is ultra. So I'm getting 50, so you know, 100 more frames. So that's very decent. Very, very decent for you know, the ultra level of a shader. Now I doubt everything. I'm just, another thing is I'm doing default settings, guys. This is all just default of what they give you with the shader. But you can see like depth of field's off, all that. So some of the stuff is off, but that's what is given if you just download the shader. All right, so again, very decent, very decent. All right, so here's my list of ones. Airlock, I'll go through them briefly, but again, for those that are just impatient, but mainly try various versions of Sildurs Vibrant Shaders will work for you. Sildurs Default Shader will probably work for you well. All right, and just avoid SEUS. Just, you're not going to be able to do that. All right, so here's AirLoocke Shader Standard. It's based on that Chocapic13, slightly tweaked out, so the colors are more vibrant. You know, the water's a bit more reflective, I think, but see, I'm getting full water reflections and all that. I get decent, there's no lens flare, but it's procedural clouds and all that, so it's pretty decent. And again, 48, 50 in that range. So again, over 100 without video for the most part. All right, then there's B Shader version 2.3.20. I can't give you downloads, guys, for this stuff, but I'll provide a list in the description. All right, and you can find them. But this one is decent too. The water's not as pretty. The color map's okay. The shadows are a little bit deeper. Again, in some of these shaders, I'll show you, the shadows act kind of weird. That one does have lens flare, and the lens flare works okay. So some of these that are based on that Chocapic, I could probably go through and figure out what the deal is and fix it, probably. But 40-ish, around there, not too bad. All right, so let's go through builders. Already showed you the modded shader. It increases my frame rate. Now the QOL is actually even a lighter version of this modded shader. All right, and we'll see if it increases or not. I don't remember, but this one is very foggy in the beginning. See, so I'm getting 77, 88. You know, I'm getting really good frame rates from these. You can adjust the fog distance and all that. I like the clouds. I like these shaders a lot. The water is not like, you know, it's art. It's like a painting. You know, this is more artistic looking. I like it. It's a kind of misty, and it just got an artistic feel to it. I really like this shader, and it increases my frame rates, but I do adjust the fog generally when I'm playing. So we showed you the no shadows. We did the high, the ultra. They're in the same way. Here's the V5 Lite. I can't get good performance or even really load some aspects of the V5 series of Chocapic, but the Lite works okay. So I'd have to go through and figure out which setting is actually messing with it. You know, it just varies. So 99, there's another one that's got a big frame increase. So I'm getting an increased frame rate from this, for the, you know, not a huge amount, but a good amount. All right, so that's cool. And this one's pretty. I like this one. The colors are a little bit washed out, but you know, it's pretty good. So I could go through and set it. All right, so then these are some of the older ones now. Cybox and Oceano are from the same person. So here's the Cybox lagless. This one's pretty old, but it's okay. Keeps the same vanilla colors. They're a little darker. It's the shadows are kind of weird on it though. When you move, they're not too bad. There's ones that are worse, but see, the shadows kind of vibrate with you a little bit. They're kind of weird, but 47, 48. So generally on a good shader that works for me, recording video, that's kind of what I can expect. It's around, you know, 50 tops. Here's the Cybox V2. You can see switches quick, so that tells you. Now that one's got a lot more lens flare to it. The colors still look basically the same. The shadows seem smoothed out. Good reflections in the water. Not a lot going on with the water texture, but the reflections are very good. So that's 50, you know, around that area. Pretty good. Then let's look at 3.5. That's a work in progress one. I don't think it was ever finished, but the colors in this are pretty horrible. Lens flares and stuff are cool, you know, but the colors, Deep shadow. Oh, also this, well, that's probably the sun now, but I'm not sure if this one had a weird shadow that was following me around from the sun, but this one just generally, I don't like the look of it, but the performance is decent in the range that I'm getting. All right, and then DocteurDreads Shaders V2 low. That's the only one I could get good performance of. A lot of people are, you know, reporting this as a low end shader that gets good results, but you know, very dominant sun rays, weird lens flares that just pop in your screen. I don't know if that's intended. Water's got a little bit of ripple texture to it, and the reflections are pretty decent. This one's not too bad for a light shader. All right, so same general range, a little bit slower than the others, maybe lose 5 or 8 frames a second. Some of these, night is fine generally. The weather can matter in some cases, but I'll only show you the, you know, the ones that I really want to use that detail. All right. So Kadir Nick shader. This is another one that I think gave me an increased frame rate. Now it's very orange. It's very sunny. So it's not really increased frame rate. It's about in the same ballpark as the others. But it's very decent too. Some water texture, good reflections. You know, all these pretty much have waving unless they're the lowest in shaders. But a lot more contrast in the shadows. And again, orange, warm. Sun's not added. Well, it is. That's a custom sun that's turned on its side. But, you know, not lens flares, no clouds or anything like that. I haven't necessarily tried to mix some of these with custom skies, but in some cases you can. All right, now KUDA-Shaders version 5.0.6 Ultra is the one that worked well for me in this instance. And it's a nice shader. It's really very nice. So you get even more texture on the water, the ripple feel, more undulation, some refraction, procedural clouds, decent lens flare. All right, here's a rain. Rain's decent, 38. So that's dropping me down into 30s. But I've got dirty lens. You know, it's not bad for video. Again, would it in a Let's Play be good? I don't know. You know, you'd have to really tweak it. Doubt it. But you know, some of this is, this has water reflections, rain reflections a bit. Yeah, when the ground's wet. So that's cool. That's higher end stuff. So this one I think is the most high end shader as far as overall effects that I can get. But again, even the rain didn't make a lot of difference. So I'm about 40-ish. At its default settings. All right, just purely download it. Load it. It's ultra though, so that's good. That's a good for me in ultra. All right, so this is that Paleos or whatever lagless shader, again an older one. So it has colored fog. It has a more pronounced fog type effect than these weird bouncing shadows. Here's one where the shadows are shifting as I move. Wouldn't really like that very much, but performance is about in range with the other ones that I'm seeing. Okay, and I may, you know, get better performance on some of these if I shut down Minecraft and start it back up again, because you're messing with your GPU. All right, so the next one is MrMeepz x3S shaders version 4 RC4. All right, so again, I had to go through many of these and test. Now this one has the open GL error when I first load it. That's usually a shadow compositing, but then it'll go away afterwards. So as you go toward the sun, the map changes, but generally it's decent. Not much texture on the water, no real reflections on the water, but you know, waving and all that kind of stuff. So decent, but you know, in the same range is what I've got. Same range as the other ones. All right, so you can see the performance of each one that I've chosen is about the same, really. Now here's V5 medium. Let's look at that, and the shadow effect is better. All right, it's not great, but it's not bouncing all over the place in a distracting way. It's not as foggy looking. Let's see if the water's. I'm not sure if there's even water in this medium. There's waving with a bit of refraction, but that's basically it. But yeah, you can get reflections on the water, and that's weird. But yeah, it's still got the waving and all that kind of stuff. So again, in the same scope as the other ones. All right. So then let's look at the Oceano, which again is an update of Cybox Shaders. Not quite liking it, the water and stuff. The version 1.1, there's newer versions that didn't work as well for me, but the water's really got a lot of texture to it. So probably on an ocean base and stuff it would look good. As a river it's kind of weird, but there's a lot of mist. There's all these procedural clouds. The sun does weird stuff. It's got kind of a bloom type of effect. So there's bloom, a lot of bloom. It's a real blurry type lens look, you know, lens with a diffusion type filter on it. Shadows are good detail, and, you know, waving and all that. It's a little bit slower. All right, a little bit slower on that one. But again, this is, I don't think that's not an ultra, but it's up there. I don't know if they have levels on that one. All right, now projectLUMA is an update of the CUDA shaders. All right, and it's actually big as far as the shader size. Download like 16 megs, which is the biggest of the group, and it's very, very decent. So it's new. This is like the latest version of it. I do get that, and the composite, and, you know, some of the stuff I could maybe troubleshoot out, but as long as it's not keeping repeating over and over again, then it's okay. It is, I loaded beautiful clouds, sky's pretty, lens flare's pretty, water's very pretty, you know, a lot of detail in the water. This one's very nice. The color's a little slightly washed, but that's just kind of the bright sunlight. This is kind of the classic shader look, really, which I prefer a little bit darker terrain and all that, but this one's very, very decent. Very, very nice, actually. So I'm getting actually good frame rates on it, 50, all that, for a nice balanced shader. So this one I definitely recommend too. All right, as being one that you could possibly record video and use. All right, so here's Robobo, whatever, 1221 shader, V7-High. All right, so let's try that one. Again, it's dumping out some of this because that's actually big. So the projectLUMA must, you know, add a lot of like graphics and stuff. I haven't gone through to look. This one again is kind of the older SEUS type look, a little bit more washed out, and the water looks good looking water, good reflections that have, you know, the water effect in them, and decent frames, you know, right along with my frame rates. Okay, so and then I haven't tweaked out Optifine or anything much either. I'm running at an 8 render distance, which is, you know, what I generally have to run at anyway. All right, this is Sasukt or whatever. I don't know how to say that. Ultra V7. All right, and again, a lot of these, this one has, you know, strong vignette feel. The colors are a nice balance between not being overwashed. This waving is a little too fast in my opinion, and it seems a little diffused. One of these, yeah, had a deep depth of field effect. That was kind of cool. So when I get close to that, then the camera will shift. But, you know, if you want to feel like you're playing Minecraft through a camera, this was probably pretty good. And some of the shaders are like that, you know, cinematic type feel. But that's actually a really good and optimized depth of field, a lot more optimized than most. So just around the 50s, all that. This one looks pretty darn good, actually. It's got, you know, fog in the background. The water is simpled, more simple water, but good reflections, all this kind of stuff. This one's pretty decent. If you're going for this kind of feel, I don't think I'd necessarily want to play with that depth of field, but for cinematic, maybe. All right, so let's look then at the we did the SEUS standard, or we did one of these SEUS ones. Let's look at the Seuss V8 Standard. That one I didn't have to edit or anything, but it's a very old version, and there's hardly anything added to it. Shaders or the shadows are kind of weird. It does add, you know, a bit of a custom sun, kind of got some pixelation on it. The water, I think, is just standard. Yeah, the water's completely standard. So, you know, SEUS is just not, you're not going to get all the great SEUS stuff out there. It's not going to happen, guys. All right, so SFLP is supposed to be a high performance shader. I can really only run light RC1 at a decent rate. All right, that's just what it is. This one's again kind of an orange sun, you know, sunny look. it's the light version, so there's hardly any added features to it. The water waves a little bit, got the waving grass and all this. This is kind of a sunny beach type look. I'm not sure that the leaves wave. Some of them do. Looks like just maybe the oak leaves. Yeah. So this one probably predates, you know, even the additions of those trees. Maybe. I don't know. Have to go through and look at it. So that one's it's okay. But they're supposed to be, you know, high performance, better versions. Now, Sildurs Vibrant is my preferred one. And as I said earlier, use that one if you want nice screenshots and good color and good lens flares. I don't know about playing with it, but if you're going for beauty shots on the Mac and stuff, I think this guy is probably your one for that. As far as the saturation of the color, the nice balance between skies. It's not the best clouds out there, but they're pretty good, and the performance is very good. All right, so again, in the same range as other stuff, but more shader type effects to it that I think work well for screenshots and stuff like that. All right, so then Whereas, it used to be my preferred shader, Whereas HFPS, high frame per second, but it seems like an Ultra a Optifine update has changed some of the stuff that you can get with it. So this is the one I need to use with this newer version of Optifine, version 3 high. There's up to version 5, but I get errors in Optifine with that one. Now this shader I think is beautiful. This is a really beautiful shader. Got a decent amount of detail on the water, real good reflections, not any crazy waves or whatever. That appears more natural for a river type environment for me. Lens flares are good, not too annoying. The color's good. The waving is at a good rate. The shadows are really nice. I think this shader is wonderful. This is a good one. And it's at about the same frame rate as I get with the other ones. And keep in mind, I just re-emphasize that I'm recording video, so without video, I'd be doubling. Now, these were the old shaders that were copies that were pulled because they blatantly copied other people and then they updated them. But they are very high performance on a Mac. But the shadows are crazy looking. All right. But this is like the low end stuff that you could, if you can't run anything else, you're probably going to be able to run this guy. The water does weird stuff with the light. So, you know, it's got issues, but it's old. But this was like the go-to on Mac for a long time. All right, this one was. So, this version's better. Yeah, this one's better, but because but you still get these kind of shadows that are very distracting. Generally, you know, you could probably go in the code and edit some of that out, but it's not horrible. It's just not that great either. There's better options now, but I wanted to point those out because those were the go-to Mac shaders, but the water's really pretty in this too. All right, so that is the Y-Shaders Ultra, so the Ultra version of that. Now, the only one that I know of, some of these are tweaked for Mac. I mean, like Sildurs, they specifically say they support Mac, but the only ones I know that were developed on Mac initially was the Cybox Shaders. This version 2 and all that was developed specifically on a Mac Pro early in its development. So you may want to consider that too. If you have a MacBook Pro, I said Mac Pro, but I mean MacBook Pro. Then you may want to look at this guy because this was developed on that, and it's got a nice compromise between some reflections and stuff. You know, things that up the look of Minecraft substantially, but don't pull on you that hard. So it's again in about the same frame rates as others. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I will leave a list of all the shaders and, you know, the version of Optifine and stuff that I'm using in the description. I can't, like I said, provide downloads for them. Some of these older ones, maybe, I don't know. If you can't get it, then, you know, really, I mean, do some duty. I found them, so they're findable. But anyway, but you know, the big ones like Seuss and all that edited, no, not gonna do it, guys. That guy's got money. He'll come after me. No, not gonna do it. Sildurs, you can get on your own. Worse, you can get on your own easy. Cuda, this version's maybe a little bit hard to find. Chocapic, you could get. Builders Modded, you could get real easy. You know, so just depends. But anyway, I hope that's helpful to you guys. You know, at the end of the video here, people, you know, I say, well, why are you using a Mac? Well, because, but I have family connections to Apple. I have a long history of using it professionally, and I also like to have that unique expertise of Mac. All right, Mac gaming. That's not very common out there. You know, it's not the best platform for that. It'd be silly not to admit that it's not the best platform for gaming, but it gives you a good challenge. All right, so if you're a Mac user and playing Minecraft, then subscribe to my channel, guys, because, you know, I'm a fairly tech savvy Mac user doing gaming, so specifically Minecraft. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. It's a Scott Model. Thanks so much for watching. If you stay to the end, I do so much appreciate it, guys. Leave a like. Tell me some other shaders that you suggest. I'd love to hear them and try them out, but I've gone through and did pretty deep search. So 28 shaders as a selection that has a wide variety of looks. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, I may go through and tweak and edit some of these to figure out why I'm getting performance increases, why certain water works better than the others, you know, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, maybe make future videos about that. So stay tuned. Anyway, it's Scott Model. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.